Hey, it's Roger from Performancenter Racing Warehouse and PRW Chassis. I got to interview my good friend Brian Murphy, body hanger at Stewart Hass Racing. Pleasure for me. It's unbelievable. Used to work for me 10 years ago. It's gone on. It's done well. He gives a little insight to a lot of things. Late model stock cars then and now. What he learned about cup racing. All the great things. Plus, he talks about his mountain climbing. He climbs mountains. He does all kind of crazy things. Check it out. I think you'll enjoy it. I appreciate you. Brian Murphy. I'm sure we did some kind of crazy intro that you'll laugh about what an idiot I am, but that's just me. A little bit about Brian. Brian was one of the original Performancenter guys moons and moons and moons ago. He's kind of just worked his hind end off. I wish I could give you any other version of that, but he's jet set. He flies around. He's a cup guy now. He does all kind of crazy things. So without further ado, introduce you to Brian Murphy.
Hey, it's great to be here. This is awesome. I'm really excited.
I'm glad you came. I think it's going to be great. Yeah. Tell us. I mean, you started kind of at nothing, worked here for Tom for a long time, worked hard, did a lot of stuff you probably think, man, I'm an idiot. But it was all part of kind of the learning experience to get where you are now, right?
It was. And even just to jump before that, I feel like my my introduction to motorsports started really late. It all started when I was a sophomore in high school. We never watched any racing, never worked on a race car before. And my mom came up and said, hey, you want to go to a NASCAR race? I said, that sounds terrible. Like, no.
No.
And she said, well, I'm not asking you, I'm telling you.
Right,
so
we're going to go do it. Yeah.
And we went, and I just loved it. I couldn't believe how awesome it was. So when I first showed up to Performancenter, I had never touched a race car, really. I'd help Mike Herman with his Pro Cup car every once in a while, but still that was going to the racetrack and handing tools and doing things like that. So didn't know how to weld, didn't know how to do anything, and this is the place that taught me all that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
If you think about that, just the fact of how it was then, that was kind of how it was then, right? Like, your parents didn't buy anything, right?
No.
You just came here basically almost for little or no money, and worked. And the interesting part is that it wasn't just you. This is what I can't figure out, how people can't drive things together. Like, there's been a very good amount that have come through here that have gone on and done great things, or were great teachers, or were great, you know what I mean, became whatever. I mean, if you want to go to Tom as an owner, to Greg Marlowe, to Jonathan Moore, you know, I mean, to you, to Aaron, who's now down at DGR. I mean, I think you were the perfect fit for this show, because the grind is kind of what it's about, right? Like I remember before I bought this from Tom telling me how, Tom like would intentionally put people through their paces to see if he could weed them out, right? And he was like, he just keeps coming back for more. He just keeps coming back for more. And I think that's what it takes to make it.
Yeah. Well, in this place, it had such a old school mentality where even now in the Cup Series, I run into people that never worked in a place like this.
Right.
And they never had to grind or work hard.
So they don't know any of it.
No, you know what I mean? And and even just the mentality of this place with Jonathan and Fox and those old school guys, you learn, how to grind and how to how to dig.
That's why I've been preaching this mentorship so hard, just for the simple fact of, I didn't come from, it's interesting, I didn't come from a racing family either, right? Like, I think those people that don't come from it, if you really want it enough and you're willing to taste some of the garbage that comes along with this, I think you can win.
Absolutely.
Tell us about Stewart Hass. Tell us about what you do there. Give us a little background.
I started there in 2015, January 2015. I had came from a company we built trucks for KBM and Thor Sport, so I had a pretty good fabrication background. But getting to Stewart Hass, I became a body hanger there, and it's just a whole nother level. I don't think people understand the amount of effort that goes into those cars.
They can't.
No,
I'll tell them my biggest problem. My biggest problem is I think everybody sees what I have seen. People don't realize that this, like in a cup deal, it goes to the thousandths of a degree here, right? Like, we're not talking about the lower is.
we have like a Bible size build sheet. You know what I mean?
Right.
And we have to hit those numbers within 25,000.
That's it.
You know, and there's no exception. There's, you know, every car is built to that small amount.
That standard.
So,
Do you think that's some of what's hurting some of the innovation, or no?
Well,
you're caught in both sides, right? So I understand, but it seems the price point's going to help a few and hurt some others. I think.
There's still a lot more innovation in Cup than I think people realize.
It's hardcore innovation now, though, right?
It is, right? Yeah, absolutely. There's a lot more sneaking around, trying to get little
We
bits.
just did stuff and shook everybody's hand and looked him in the eye like
Right.
it was nothing wrong, right?
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
now you like it takes 12 weeks to get ahead of something.
And people see that, you know, the sides are stamped out, but there's more to just a side than just bloop, throwing it on a car. And now that they have the optical scanning station, that's actually opened up more, because before the templates were only, you know, you'd get an eighth to play with. Now the OSS allows you to go plus or minus 150,000. So we have 300,000 to play
That's
with.
terrible, right?
Yeah.
I don't think the late model stock car guy, or even the super guy to that avenue, to be real honest, can that aren't intermingled from the top down. I don't think they can comprehend that.
No, it's when I first started there, I thought I knew everything. As I've progressed in my career, I get to the next level, and like the first month is just a kick in the
I'm
balls.
an idiot. Yeah, I'm an idiot. Right.
So, but like when I first got there, I remember putting a nose on, and someone says, "All right, just knock that back about 15 thou," and I'm like, "Excuse me." So I go, you know, now we have roamer arms, and we measure it. You know, there's no more tape measures and laser. We have these computers, and you measure the thousandths, and it's like, no, just knock it back 15 thou. And I'm like, how am I supposed
30 thousandths? It's so much closer than what it was back when he was working on late model stock car stuff,
building bumper bars,
right? And thought that was, you know, was really keeping things in tolerance with the equipment that we have. That's one of the struggles I think with the small business is the antiquated equipment to be able to. You guys have $4 million worth of roamer arms just to measure things to make sure they're right.
And we
you know
have
what I mean?
Any kind of equipment you could possibly imagine
to measure something.
It's totally different, but it's also good to come from something like this.
Yeah.
And you learn certain tricks or certain you know things
cheats.
of the trade.
Yeah,
cheats, you know what I mean?
sure.
Where,
yeah.
Especially now on the road, where you know I travel and fabricate on the road, I don't have the same tools at the racetrack that I do in the shop. So a lot of the things I do on the road now come from the tricks I learned here in this shop. You know, so I think that's one reason why I did get this position is you can't just know how to build something with all the tools. You have to be able to, you know, improvise and move on.
What's your biggest piece of advice to young people that wanna do the deal you're doing? How do they win?
First of all, when I first started in racing, I always thought that I needed to start someplace like here and work my way up. And shortly after I got to Stewart Hass, I realized not many people did that. And for a long time, I was disappointed in myself that maybe I didn't get into Cup soon enough. And now, as the years have gone by, like we just talked about, I've realized the experience I had here and the importance of working your way up. And I think, first of all, you need to be okay. You know, nowadays people are so impatient. They want results now. I come out of college or I graduate high school and I want to go work for a Cup team right now. And those years where you progress and learn are more important than the years of when you're actually on top or working for a high level.
I kind of agree, right? Like you built your foundation, learning tons and tons of skills, right? And then it went from there. I agree with you. I think people want to monetize too early, kind of in businesses too. I think the same thing happens. A lot of people want to be paid $5 million for something before it's worth $5 million, right?
And kids come out of school and they think, okay, I graduated, I know what to do, and I'm ready to go. And that is far from the truth.
Yeah.
You know, it's
right.
Because you have a piece of paper, or even, like one of my favorite stories here was that I had been here and comfortable and thought I knew everything. And you came in, and I remember doing ductwork for you. This is one of my favorite stories.
This will be bad.
And you had me do ductwork for Matt's car, and it was beautiful and great. But you told me to raise it up to get the pan of the ductwork
sure.
up. Oh, he doesn't know what he's doing.
Right,
I built ductwork.
Right, I built 100 of these.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
For sure.
And I remember getting into a huge fight, and that was one of the first ass chewings I got in war sports.
Right.
But from that day on, I realized two things. One, I really don't know much of anything.
Or didn't at that time, right?
And two, it doesn't really matter what I think or want. It's you have to respect that level of.
I think there's something to that, but I also think that I can tell you this, as the more that I've grown and matured, that I think younger, so many of us think exactly what you said, is that I need to be in a hurry. I need to win cup races like when I'm 14. Yeah. Otherwise, I'm screwed. Right. And what we're seeing is that's actually not converting. Because when they get to the point where you should know everything, now you don't know anything. So we end up with these huge gaps in between. And I don't know, the racing deal's a weird deal to me because there's not a real true educational system. Is it like, again, the NASCAR tech can be mad if they want to, but I'm just telling you that is overly the win, right?
No,
like it's
absolutely not.
We've tried quite a few kids from there, and we've gotten some really good kids actually, and we've gotten some other kids that maybe should go in the automotive industry or do something that pertains to that because they don't want to quite work this hard. Explain to people. I don't want you to give them any numbers, but explain to people how hard you legitimately have to go. Like, I think you probably think now that you get a bunch of time you hike, you do all these things, right? Like, but before, like, I don't think people understand that through you were 30 years old or 20, whatever. Like, there was no hiking.
No,
like, there was a few girls. I remember, right? Like,
very few,
right,
though.
Right, and I'm not talking, right? There was a few, but those were the things.
Yeah.
You went in with the group. You went full head on, 100%. You took as much as you could take from the group, and then kind of kept trying to better yourself.
Yeah. They're during my 20s. I'm only 32, so
sure.
But that 10 years. I spent 7 days a week.
This is what I think people don't know.
Seriously, no, I did not have a girlfriend from the time I moved here to when with Becca, which was 20,
11.
2011, 2012. So every single day, every hour was spent on racing. And that was it.
That's what makes me so happy.
And even now, like I'm able to methodically fit in some of this hiking, and I do work for a company that is very supportive in all of this. But yeah, back then, man.
But not even right. Like here's the thing that I've noticed now. You tell me if I'm right or wrong. But most of my friends that work at cup places, they kick them out now.
Yeah.
Like they work hard through portions. I'm not going to say there's the Daytona push, right? Then there's then you come to the Chase, and there's different pushes. I'm not going to say that, but the interesting part is they bail a lot of them now.
They do.
There's so much structure where there was never a time I can ever remember one single owner being like, "All right, man, 7:30. You should probably go home now."
Right. Yeah.
That never happened.
No.
No Chinese overtime. No, we didn't get no overtime.
Right.
There was no nothing. You just did whatever you did.
Right, absolutely. Now it definitely is different, but it's also a product of having 450 employees. So
yeah.
But yeah, I don't have to. When like in my 20s, I would work here and be here 7 to
whenever
5, 6, 7.
Yeah, but you
whatever.
guys were always stayed here late a lot.
Yep, and then on the weekends it was either going to Hickory or helping Mike Herman, Clay Rogers, or driving.
Right, Matt McCall.
Matt McCall across the country in racing, and then coming back Sunday and back at it on Monday. That's just the way it was, and man, it was fun.
It was fun.
Yeah, it was. They were great times, but this isn't. I have never really worked in a different type of business, but I can't imagine anybody doing the stuff we do or working as hard as we do in racing.
This is why I think I win at everything else, to be real honest.
No,
this is my hardest game. I think my other games I win in exponential amounts just because, if we got to work 20 hours a day, we'll work 20 hours a day. Like
It's just, and they're like,
Right.
most people don't bat an eye.
Right.
It's just, okay.
Daytona's coming, Knoxville Nationals are
Yeah.
coming. I don't care what you race. There's
Yep.
a time that's coming, and you got to be able to try to maximize everything that you can do. I think that's awesome.
I think honestly, and to get a little bit of the mountaineering side of what I've done,
Sure.
I just climbed Mount Rainier.
It's
And
awesome.
it was a great accomplishment. But so 6 of us went up, only 3 of us made it, and like I crushed it. And I feel like part of that is because of the
Just that
mentality
mindset.
in this industry. Like it sets you up mentally to be prepared, and to like there's no type of mental pain or anything that doesn't stop you from going, okay, I still have to go. Like,
Right.
you know, this isn't the end. You know, the goal is there, and I'm going to meet that goal.
Right.
So I just this industry is just so amazing, but it's difficult. And if you come in here looking for cupcakes and candy,
You're beat.
yeah, you're you're done.
We get a lot of them.
Yeah.
A lot of them just what I'd like, because we self-police. We really don't have to fire that many people, because first of all, it's 94 degrees in
Yeah.
here most days,
Yeah.
right? Like we start at 8, and hopefully we get to leave by 5:30 or 6, right?
Mhm.
If I've even corrupted the guys so much that they don't want to go to lunch anymore, right? I've ruined everybody in this place, and I think that it's refreshing to hear you say that, from the fact of the people think the journey's so short when I think it's long, even with your mountain climbing. Look at that. I mean, I'm sure this is still early into this deal, right? You're still
Yeah.
fresh and new
Yes.
into this deal.
Very
and yet
new,
you're
yeah.
climbing these. That's what I mean. I think I think the people that complain that it's not good for them is usually the people that just don't want to do it. Because I think if you're willing to just pound it and pound it and pound it, even and I'm going to go out on a limb here, and I'll catch criticism for this because I normally do, but I think you can make it as a driver if you keep pounding it hard enough. If you're willing to go 40, 50, if you're willing to be 45 years old and live in your car and sell T-shirts out of the
Yeah.
back of it
Yeah.
to try to get a cup ride, I think it's just about how much crap you want to eat.
I agree.
I tell my son constantly, I think that's it, right? Like,
Well, now with a lot of these teams in the back of the field, they just need someone to be able to drive and not kill the car every week. So
Right.
there's big opportunities. I mean, one thing I love seeing this past weekend on the Rovo is Joe Nemechek was in a car.
100%.
That is awesome to see, but that just shows that, like, just, you know, you can get there and show your talents and in a certain way, because you got to be smart about how you show them in those cars, but it's the possibility's there for sure.
I think
you know what I mean?
if you're willing to do the long haul deal, I think it's I always believe in the inverse of everything. So I believe that we went through this time where, and a lot of these guys I enjoy, so don't think I'll pick up with the Paul Menards or whatever. And
No.
I think we're getting ready to see the swing. I think the Matt Benedettos,
Yep.
the people that aren't, and I don't think it's going to get super easy. Please don't think that. I don't think that everybody's
Right.
just going to walk in
No.
and do a deal. But I don't think anybody's going to walk in and just do a deal in the NFL either, right?
No.
Like you have to. That's just not the way that it works. So
Well, you look at the latest group of people to get cup rides, right?
Yes.
So Chase Elliott kind of had a name,
Yeah.
but he won a lot of races. He is very deserving of his position. I mean,
people say that it's because he was in great stuff. I don't think that they realize what it's like to have a teacher like that. Right? Like
They
my
don't know.
dad didn't know anything about racing. My dad, my mom, right? Like
Yeah,
nobody.
yeah.
Can you imagine if you at 7, 8, 9 had a dad that you
Right.
could just bam, bam,
Well,
bam. You got to be ahead, right?
I would look like Chase Elliott.
Exactly
probably,
right,
you know what I mean?
right. That's what I
He
mean.
is one of the smartest, methodical drivers I've ever seen. Blaney, same thing. These, you know, but then you get into the other group of these kids. Bubba, I mean, I could
It's
show
right
you-
there. There's a picture of him right over
Right.
there. Yeah, well, I'll drop it in. There's a
Like,
picture.
I mean, he didn't come from
Right.
a ton of money. That
Right.
kid went out and raced his
hard.
way. Yeah,
His dad worked his butt off too. You know?
absolutely. In here, I mean,
Yeah.
his dad would be cutting and grinding cars in here with me, like, you know, Hemrick, you know,
Yep.
like, so people, man, I don't know, like this last group of kids that came in a cup is extremely deserving, and there's a couple of them that this didn't land in their lap. This was not given to them. You know?
Yeah. I think people are all looking for a magic juice that I don't think exists. And
I
I think I listen to a lot of different podcasts in the morning stuff. It seems to be that almost everybody that's successful to what their mind is successful did it the exact same way. Like, exactly the same way.
Yep.
There might be little nuances that change, but basically they got paid nothing. They worked their guts out to learn their craft and master it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when they got an opportunity to get paid for it, they decided whether they knew enough or they didn't know enough,
Yep.
right?
Yeah.
Because you had multiple opportunities. Almost everybody in this shop has had multiple opportunities to go right away
Right.
or early on.
Yeah.
And I think...
Too early.
Right. Sometimes, some cases.
Yeah.
And I think that really converts the fact that you hone your skills, whether it's whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on a different side of the movement because I think people are struggling right now to raise funds. So as many people know, I have been for 1 year selling things on eBay. I've raised $46,000, I think. And I'm going to show kids that sit at home, that don't do anything, that they can actually make money selling things.
Yeah.
I'm only doing this to prove my son wrong, right? But I want them to know that so if you were a young kid that was 14, 15, 16 years old and you needed $650 a week
Yep.
to be able to get tires, well, why couldn't you sell things all week long on eBay that you picked up
Absolutely.
from wherever,
Yep.
right? Goodwill,
Yep.
from a yard sale, from a whatever.
Yep.
Why could you not sell those things, generate revenue that could buy you tires? Because that's the biggest.
Right.
Education and funding is the
Yeah.
two biggest things that I'm starting to ask everybody and see. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that there's better ways? What are better ways we can educate some of these younger people that don't understand? They're just used to dad writing a check. But dad writing a check is only going to get you ish, right? Like ish. It's not going to get you all the way.
No, that's not.
It will short term, but you'll lose long term.
That's tough, man. I like I said, that getting kids or just people interested in this sport into a place like this and showing them what it takes.
Sure.
But
it also breaks a lot of people.
Right, which
Like it breaks
weeds,
them.
Yeah, it does. It weeds out a lot of the, and it's only funny because like you said, I've seen so many people walk in here and basically within a day be
Right.
like, oh man,
this
you know?
wasn't it.
Right. So I don't know if maybe that's on us to maybe be a little more open-minded to their thoughts and how maybe not so tough on them right away. I don't know.
My thing
I
is
don't know.
this. Like, I this is a thing that I don't think, I don't have the street cred anymore because I'm not a cup guy, but this is what I think. I think that if you don't like to work out, if you don't like to be hot, if you don't like talking to the media, if you don't like any of these things, don't be a race car driver.
No, absolutely not.
Right? Like,
Right.
I just read that article about Jimmy Johnson being one of the fittest men on earth.
Yeah.
Like, if you don't like to do any of those, if you think you're just going to sit in there, right? And
Right.
it's not going to work.
Yeah.
Maybe
wear
you can,
sunglasses, that's
right?
my favorite, you know
right.
what I mean?
New hat, right? Like,
Yeah.
those are the things that go with it. But I don't think we get enough people talking about the garbage that they ate trying to get there,
No.
sleeping. You know,
Or even not only that, but like you just said, the stuff they have to do now.
right,
People are like, when you go to the race, and my biggest, people ask me all the time, where are the drivers on Sunday?
right.
Well, where do you think they are? They're out doing appearances.
Right,
They're
talking to
up in the
people,
suite. You know
signing
what I
things,
mean?
yeah.
Like these guys are, or at the shop. It's Monday. Why aren't they at the shop? Well, because they flew out Wednesday and did appearances. Then Thursday they're usually doing appearances. Then Friday, Saturday, Sunday they're at the racetrack working.
They're trying to generate revenue.
Like,
Right.
trust me, they work very hard.
Right.
Very hard. So,
I think that's the perception that we need to get to younger people, especially racing in super late models, late model stocks, legend cars, whatever. I think we have this fake version of what racing is, that
Absolutely.
it's cool dudes.
Oh.
And NFL has it to a point, right? And NBA, everybody has it, but I kind of want to expose it because we're close, right? People think this community is super huge, and I hate to tell you that it's not, right? You're your own brand. If it is what it is. Like you can't monetize your brand too early because just like what you said, it hurts you long term. I think we gotta get these people to explain how hard Bubba works on his stuff.
Yeah.
Then, and I'm not saying what he did is right. I'm not saying what he did is wrong. I don't care. I'm telling people that he works hard
Absolutely.
to get where he's at.
Yep.
And I can't think of any of them that are on Sunday really anymore. Well, there's some. I guess there's a few, but I can't think of a ton on Sundays that are just there because anymore.
And to also to that point, I think this is one of the only series or racing industries that we don't also appreciate the Paul Menards.
Yeah.
'Cause
I love Paul. He was awesome, dude.
Great guy.
Dude, great
and not only
dude.
that, but the amount of support that his family has brought to this.
They're one of the only reasons, in my opinion, still alive. Let's just be real honest. Arca would be dead.
You know what I'm saying?
Right. I don't think they know Arca secretly was owned by them.
So to have people like that, we don't need to talk. You know, we need to celebrate these people and that they're in our sport.
You know what I celebrate about Paul the most of anything? I have to say this, and it made me. So when he said, "Yeah, they're in," I'm like, "This is the coolest dude I ever met in my life."
Yeah.
Like somebody was gonna fall. This is what I think people forget about Paul or his family or whatever. Like they keep falling on the sword.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
At their own expense.
Yep.
And nobody thinks about that, right?
Nope.
This dude, I shouldn't say dude. This family has filtered hundreds of millions of dollars into this sport. They sponsor more cars than you will ever know.
And like through different teams.
Right.
Like,
right. Yeah.
Menards is on another car.
Right.
Like, what?
Right.
You know?
Right.
So it's very important that even though there's few of those people, that type of involvement in this sport needs to be celebrated, and I'm thankful for Paul Menard.
I am too.
You know,
good dude.
Yeah.
Just a good. If you've ever hung out with him before, you know he's just a good dude.
Yeah, he is.
He's just a good dude.
But
basketball court in his house, though.
Really?
Yeah, the dad. I think their family have a basketball court in their house. Super cool. Yeah, I saw something on CNBC about his dad. Yeah. Where are you going next? What are you going to do? You just going to ride this train for 10, 12, 15 more years? Glide out into the sunset of 50?
The next couple of years in motorsports worldwide are going to be the biggest. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
You go not just Cup, but you look at LMP1 cars. Those are gone. Like that era of sports car is gone.
Gone.
You know, not too long ago, IMSA phased out the DPs. Now we got the DPIs. Where are they going? So next couple of years are going to be life changing, like you said, for the motorsports industry. Cup going to.
I super worry about Cup.
This Gen 7 cars.
I love what they've done, but I super worry about it.
I look at it a couple ways. One, I don't know for a fact how much we spend. I have not heard any figures. I can just go off what I see. And I would bet it's probably 10 times more than what people think.
I would agree.
And in today's market, I just don't think that's feasible, whether you like it or not.
The waste is just crazy.
It's unbelievable. And you have...
But the IP is what keeps the waste crazy, I think, right? Like as soon as everybody started intellectual property, as soon as everybody started worrying so much about intellectual property, it was probably 96, 97 maybe, where they started throwing everything in the grinder, right? Like it wasn't even recycle bin. Right. It was just grinder, like because we don't want anybody to see anything that has to do with it.
Yeah. And there's no stopping these teams from. There's no limit.
Right.
And like I said, just that's nowadays with the market the way it is. That's as much as I have fun doing the crazy stuff we do.
Right.
It's not feasible anymore.
Not in the long term.
The other part of the Gen 7 car that's going to be hard is the layoffs, I believe.
I do too. How do you think that will affect you? You guys are a big place, right? Like,
yeah, we got 450 employees.
I heard Claire B. Lang, maybe somebody, XM Radio said she thought at least 50%.
That's what I think. I think 50%. And you can't, this new car comes out. It's not just like, fabricators are going to lose their jobs. You have less fabricators, which means you have less,
you're not pulling suspension on and off every time before it goes to the fab shop and comes back. It's going to.
It trickles all the way up.
Sure.
You have less financial people. You have less all that. So, but the other side of it is, it's kind of hard to explain. But I would say right now the mentality in Cup, there's a lot of people that don't want to be there
for sure
and are just hanging around. Or
Cup was sad for me. Because This is the whole reason I left. I get asked this all the time. My ex-wife was pregnant with Brady, but I got there and I realized there ain't a lot of people smarter than I am. I was so let down. Not that I'm a genius. Please don't think that. But I thought it was going to be rainbows and unicorns, right? I didn't realize that we were going to have to wait for 4 hours in the rain before the Daytona 500 so that they could have a parade, right? I was a dirt track guy, right? We run our 40, we go back home, we lash valves, we car wash, right? And I sat there. I remember sitting there. I was on top of the pit box. I remember sitting there. The parade is longer than the race. What in the heck are we doing? And it was sad for me. Some of it hurt me because I thought that it was this huge machine, and you get to meet people that you had idolized your whole life, and then you realize, man, I thought this guy was like a super stud, right? And then you ask menial questions that you're all learning. And for me, it was just a different learning curve. I think I didn't enjoy it as much. I didn't enjoy the Sunday racing. For some reason, just that day hurt me. I was a kid growing up. It was real traditional. We didn't do anything on Sundays, and it hurt me. I don't know why.
I think now the way, at least on my side, the tech goes and stuff.
Sure.
I mean, every day is so busy and full of
craziness,
good and bad possibilities. So I enjoy it. Right now, I enjoy the whole thing. And honestly, with this new car coming out, I'm not worried about it. They're still going to have to be put together.
Oh, for sure.
They're still going to have to be fixed. And even since the days back here, I still don't mind putting parts on. Or, you know what I mean?
Sure.
I love all of it, that I don't want to go anywhere. And
that's what I find awesome. I'm just a fab guy. No. Yeah. The guy that will win in the end is not just a fab guy. No. He's not just a mechanic. Right. He's not just that guy will win. So, as much as I hate to say that, I mean, it's true.
There's a good possibility I might have to go over the wall someday again. You know what I mean?
Again. You don't want that to happen, but that could happen, right?
Yeah. So I'm not worried about it. I'm excited for the future, but oh man, is it going to be different?
It's going to be.
Yeah.
It's going to be, the changeover is going to be different. I think a lot of people will come and go. I think it will be a definitely, I think you're going to start seeing, which I have started seeing, you can reiterate to this, maybe or not, just like racing normally does, it's cannibalizing itself. The top teams are all starting to creep downward. If you remember years ago, they came nationwide or Dash Series then, right? Then few of them had truck teams, and then we saw some super late model stuff. You're really starting to see people take a bigger look at what they do down the way, because Stewart Hass could be super awesome. Not that they're going to do this, but they could be awesome in a late model deal because they have all the intellectual property already.
Resources.
That's right. Yeah. So you're starting to see in standard NASCAR fashion, we're just kind of cannibalizing on its way down. Do you think that will be helpful or hurt? Because it could get young people affiliated with teams earlier.
Right. I think it'll help. But for this to happen, I think we need to also get rid of some of our lower series. I think there's, you look at IndyCar, they have IndyCar, Indy Lights, F2000 or something. But either way, really their main two, they have Indy Lights, IndyCar. And a lot of the big teams do supply cars for the Indy Lights.
Right.
I look at the stock car deal, you go Supers, K&N,
right,
ARCA, Trucks, Xfinity, then Cup. What? Let's get rid of 3 of these and put more cars, more resources into a few of them, and I think bigger teams can help supply a better product and a cheaper product than what we have now.
The bad part is for me now, even when you can reiterate to this, the bad part is we used to be able to Roush made millions of dollars down there because they could take old Cup car parts and use them. But if you look what's down there at the current, there's nothing there.
No.
I mean, so now we have no trickle down. That scares me some.
There is absolutely no trickle down.
Because that was good, right? I sell parts, and I'm telling you that for the sport was good.
Yeah.
It was good for there to be a used overflow tank, fender braces, spoiler braces.
Cars.
Right, sway bars. I'm 100% cool with that.
Yeah.
There's always still people that are going to buy new, but yet there's always still people that want used.
Well, even half the stuff we get rid of, a K&N team could have used. Or,
Sure,
I just look at when I had a race car for a very, very short time, but the stuff that's in our garbage bin, I'm
Right.
like,
You could have,
oh my goodness,
right.
Like, so.
But because of the way things are, you can't. That intrigues me. What do you think we got to do to get this thing back on the rails? You think we just conglomerate it and pull it back together? It will go back on the rails?
I think we're definitely headed in the right direction. I think it's gonna be tough though. First of all, I think this generation, my generation, there aren't many as many car fans as there were back in the day.
Sure.
So you're fighting a different. I think our goals have to be not 150,000 people at a race,
Right.
So first you need to set out your goals and make them realistic. Secondly, I think we need to make it cheaper across the board, especially the upper, like Cup. Cup should not cost as much as it does. Now, I don't think everybody should be able to run Cup, but it's pretty out of control right now. And I do think having cars that could trickle down into other series would help as well.
Feeder.
I don't think that's the direction we're going.
I don't either.
But again, maybe Cup doesn't necessarily have to be. Maybe you don't need to buy a Cup car and race it at a late model deal, but maybe, again, Xfinity or something like that could be closer to what you would run on a short track. But
I think that. I could see. I think we need a correction. I personally believe it. I think if it's going to survive, the racetracks probably all need to turn over one time. I think that even, I know this sounds bad, but I think even guys like me need to turn over one time. Like, I don't think people understand the egregious growth that comes with a hope that somebody else is going to bring tons of data, tons of whatever to the sport. I think it energizes everybody in it. And I think one of the problems that's happened with late model stock car racing or super racing or whatever, that all the businesses are so old, they've maybe kicked in, like Rowdy, they took over this, but like most of the time the product, I mean, Rowdy's not owned by KBM. Rowdy's a couple guys down there in a shop, no different than this, right? Like Toyota's not pumping them information, which is Toyota's not pumping anybody information down at this level, or Ford or Chevrolet or whatever. So the intriguing part to me is I think that it gets so stagnant because it's the same businesses. Even though they may rename it, even though it may be, I mean, look at Performancenter, look at many of these businesses, right? They just kind of work a little bit off of a little bit, off of a little bit, where it would be really nice, I think, to get some outside change in. Real businessmen or real business people in this deal to see what there is to actually sell.
Well, here in the next couple of years, that might be a very good opportunity with that trickled, you know what I mean?
I think that's what's going to happen. I think you couldn't compete. You couldn't be a rich guy and compete on the Cup deal because RCR had all the good people. Hendrick had all the good people. Stewart Hass. But now, I think with this card, like it's going to be, now you don't have to have all the people from RCR. They had all the intellectual property before. They had all the people. They had all the. Now we took all that away. I have kind of applaud NASCAR for what they've done.
I think it's going to be a good move. Again,
it'll suck in the short term.
It will, but honestly, I really don't think it's going to be. I think the entire movement is in the right direction. And although there's going to be some people or some businesses that are going to suffer because of it, that after year one, you're going to be like, oh my goodness,
that was a good move.
Yeah, so
that's what I mean by I think the racetracks, and I think if it all kind of started to turn over a little bit, where you saw new things coming into it, I think it could possibly really convert.
Yep, and I agree with the tracks. It'll be interesting to see what the 2021 schedule looks like, where we go, the different
NASCAR not competing with NFL then.
Right.
I read that they
a possibility.
Right.
Yep. I don't know really any specifics, but
that'll be interesting. I think
that would be to close the year out that early would be interesting.
Think about my wife and I were talking last night about the amount of less people that will actually take, right? Like because the year being so short at the end is some January or February. Let's say January now, even December, you're running at full song for Daytona.
Yes.
Right? Like,
Oh yeah.
I don't think people understand. That's why there's 400 employees there, right? Like, so
As soon as Homestead's over,
it's on.
our guys go to 6 to 5.
Right.
Monday through Friday, some Saturdays. So it's people are like, well, what do you do in the off season?
Right.
We repair 80 cars.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so really, there is no off time for 12 months, really.
That's awesome.
So having a shorter season, less cars, all this is really gonna help the whole thing. Yeah, and then I really think competing against the NFL is one of the toughest things TV wise that we're doing right now. Having Indy, or the Indy race was on a Sunday during the home game in Indy. Like,
right, there was nobody there.
No. So
I actually think less people will go. I don't think people are going to anything as much, right? Like, I think the Super Bowl, but I think as far as, because it used to be great, but at some of these things, especially Indy, you can't see the whole track.
No.
So from a fan perspective, yes, I want to be there and I want to talk to Joey Logano, or what I mean. But other than that,
the TV product has gotten so good.
Right.
I mean, worldwide with everything, just the Olympics or whatever you want to watch.
Right.
The TV product is unbelievable now. So it's
because
hard.
they let dipwads like me have a thing where I can stream it on the internet.
So it's hard to. You have to beat that. One of my favorite sayings I remember is the F1 guy, Bernie Ecclestone.
I don't know. I have to get my kid. He knows all the F1 guys.
I remember the quote. He says, "I don't care where you go on my racetrack, just don't get in front of my TV cameras."
There you go. What I mean? Right, like
that's how important the TV product is. So. It's and I watched the Monday Night Football game last week, the Bears-Redskins.
Yeah,
there was nobody there, so it's not just.
That's what I mean. I think as a whole, right? Like, we're staying in, we're watching things that we can. Why would we actually go out when we can see all of what we want and be in bed by 9:30?
Yeah, that's gonna be tough to overcome. I think cheaper tickets, cheaper food, and things like that to get people. It's nobody wants to go out and spend.
It's not right.
So
the gimmicky stuff, though, I don't think I think it converts short term, but I don't think it converts long term, right? Like, one guy's like, "Man, we bought some tickets because the hot dogs were cheap," right? That's a winner, but it doesn't. He doesn't keep coming back over and over.
No, it's so hard just to. Yeah, I don't know. That's why I just build race cars.
That's good.
You know what I mean?
Good. Tell us about your hiking. Tell us about. I know you're really interested in it. I know you like it. I know you've escalated super quickly, right? Like, to where you are. Tell me about it.
It started a lot like my racing career did. There's Justin Potter. He's a body hanger at Stewart Hass Racing. He's also a photographer, very good photographer. And we were on our way to Bristol for one of the races, drive there, and I could tell he wanted to go hiking or something. And at this point, I'm like, I do not want to go hiking.
Right.
I just want to go to a restaurant, have a couple Busch beers. You know what I mean?
Perfect.
And so I'm like, whatever, let's go. Wearing jeans and Vans, and we went to the Limbo Gorge, and we hiked up Hawksbill Mountain. And I was like, man, this was really cool, actually.
Right.
So then a couple months go by, and I buy some equipment. It's fun to buy the equipment.
Sure.
And then, little by little, and months later, I'm doing 10, 15-mile hikes and stuff like that. And he's like, I'm not going with you anymore because you're doing too hard of stuff. Well, it became this mental and physical challenge, and it was harder and harder and harder and harder to only a year after my first hike, I had called International Mountain Guides in Washington and said, can I go up Mount Rainier?
This is my guy right here.
And, man, it's one of those things where actually I looked at the schedule for 2019, and it was wide open. This was July. So I'm thinking about it, and I'm like, well, I get my big bonus in November at the end of the year. I'll call them then and pay for it, and
be ready.
So I look, it's end of August. I look at the schedule, and every weekend but one was booked, and I'm like, oh god. So I call them, and I'm like, well, how soon do you need to know? And she's like, right now.
Really?
So I was kind of forced into
making that decision.
I'm like, screw it, let's go.
Yeah, let's go.
But like I said earlier, I'm very fortunate to work for a company that supports me in this. We have an incredible physical fitness department. We have trainers. We have Ortho Carolina people there to make sure I'm in top shape.
Sure.
And I train 3 or 4 times a week, as well as I did a lot of running, a lot of hiking's the best thing you can do to prepare for something like this because you're using those muscles. You're And so I I flew out to Rainier in beginning of August. I spent 2 weeks there. It was a 3.5-day climb, and crushed it, which I was hoping when I left, it was going to be like, all right, that was really hard. That's as high as I need to go.
I'm done. I'm fulfilled.
Perfect. Done. Great. And instead it's like, that was so easy.
What's next?
That's the question that everybody asks, and I don't have the answer yet.
That's cool. No, I don't. You don't have the answer right now. No, I think that's great.
It's the goal when I look through my little telescope is Denali. That is the highest point in North America.
Timmy Fido, I think, climbed it, didn't he? Do you even know Timmy Fido?
Yeah, he's our spotter on the 4.
You should ask him. I think he was he climbed like Everest or something. We used to fly on the race day plane, and I remember I sat beside him one time, and he was reading like a mountain climbing type book or something type book, and you should ask him. I bet you money that I don't know if it was Everest, but I know they tried Everest. You should ask him.
I'll ask him.
Yeah.
So
spun you out right there.
Yeah, I'm like, I hope he's not holding us back. You
should ask him. I'm pretty for sure he did a bunch of it. This was like 2007, 8, 9. I think he was into it. Like when he was Busch Series racing, and I don't remember what car it was, like a Supercuts car or something maybe. Yeah, for Bradshaw's. I think he did it.
As soon as I leave here, I'll be like, hey.
Yeah, you should check it out.
But yeah, Denali, it's however I need to get prepared for Denali. And there's all kinds of different opinions on how to do that. Right now, it's looking like there's 2 volcanoes in Mexico. They hike them in December and January of next year. That's an option. So it's tough because you need to realize what your body can take before you can't just go up Everest. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you need to see if your body can handle the altitude, because when you get that high, your brain starts to swell, your body starts to shut down, and you don't know if your body can handle these things until you progress your way up. So those 2 volcanoes are 18.5, 19,500 feet. Not so hard of climbs, but it's more of getting the skills to go do Denali. But Denali is my ultimate goal. God, I can't imagine if it goes past that, though.
What's the worst one, right? Like, I was talking to a mutual friend of ours that went with you on a hiking thing one time, and he was telling me, man, it went bad. Like, it was, what did he say? He didn't say it went bad, but it had the opportunity to go bad, I think. Is that your worst one? Like, what's your worst one? You got to have a terrible one.
As far as
like something where everything was going wrong, it started snowing.
That was it. That was it. Yeah. So Rainier's pretty tough, pretty hard. But I think the Appalachian Mountains are very underrated.
Right.
There's a hike in Western Carolina, the Art Loeb. It's 30 miles. It's about 10,000 feet of elevation change. It's pretty gnarly. And the first day of that hike is 15 miles and about 5,800 feet of elevation. I mean, it is
brutal.
Brutal. Well, this weekend we went. It was going to rain.
Yeah.
So we packed up, got everything ready, and it ended up raining 5.5 inches.
Yeah, he said it was bad.
It was the most rain in Western Carolina in over 120. It was like the most rain in a day ever, I think, in Western Carolina. And so,
did he say it started to snow also,
well,
or no?
Yeah,
I thought there was some snow.
Yeah,
involved.
Well, that night we had got to camp, just wore out, and took all of our stuff, got through it in they have little teepee huts, kind of.
Yeah.
Like, he opened his, and his entire bag was soaked.
Oh.
It's like, man. So I ended up giving him like my extra socks, my extra long underwear, all this. And then so I pulled out my GPS. My mom had just made me buy this GPS. Yeah. She's like, you need to be able to reach.
Bee's mom is awesome, by the way. I just want to put that on the record.
So I got it, and I'm looking at the weather, and it's like snow. And I'm like, what? So I text my girlfriend. I'm like, hey, what's the weather for
wherever
Black Balsam?
Yeah.
Oh, snowing like 20 degrees. And I look at my buddy, and I'm like, it's gonna be really cold tomorrow. Like, and he goes, man, I don't have any clothes.
Right.
Like, And once you get up on the mountain, like it's windier,
right?
And there's nobody coming to get you. So, and at that point, we even ran into a man and his father, and they were older, and they were even less prepared than we were. So I texted her and I said, "Come get us in the morning." But that first day of the Art Loeb is a lot of fun, but it's brutal. I mean,
yeah, he said I was ready. I thought I was ready, and then I wasn't ready. So there's
2 weeks in a row that I had off. It was an off weekend in Cup, and then I don't have to go to super speedway races.
Oh, nice.
So I took both those weekends to do really hard hikes, and both those weekends, well, not only that, but my partner was. The second weekend he gave up.
Right.
The first day. He was in the Marines like 2 years ago too, and he's like, "This is the hardest shit I've ever done."
That's
like
awesome.
I can't. So we didn't finish either of those hikes. The first weekend was more of weather related. The second week was difficulty related. But yeah, the Art Loeb is an amazing hike. I highly suggest it for anybody. But again, you're not going to be enjoying yourself.
That's sometimes that's
right.
What enjoying yourself is about.
That's why I like it. You know what I mean?
100%.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get my kid to explain that's the win, but he's not there yet. Yeah. I think we'll all get there. Right?
It took me until I was 29 to understand that. Really.
Yeah, for sure. I'm so glad that you stopped by. I'm appreciative that you.
Thank you.
Took part of your day off to come up. Some things I want to do more of. I'm going to try to figure out how to kind of get everybody that's been a guest a little more involved, because I think everybody can kind of aid in what we're trying to do, whether it's through a mentorship. If people are like, "Hey, how do I get into Cup? I'm the kid that's racing in Hickory." You would know that you could reach out to Brian Murphy.
Yeah, absolutely.
And he's kind of been exactly where you are if you want to. And the good part about why most of the people that I have on this show, I completely agree with, it's not easy. Anybody that tells you that it's easy is completely lying to you.
Yeah.
They have, like, it's not, you're not going to do some hack where you spend $1,000 and you, right? Like,
no life hacks here.
Right. You're not going to one race in Salem, Indiana that you think, if I just drive up to this and pit this car, I'm going to get, it's not the way that it works, right? It's hundreds of those things over and over and over again. And it's changing so fast, right? The ways that people got to Cup 10 years ago, like if we asked Tony the way he got to Cup, and then we asked almost virtually anybody else that's worked there, it's not the same gig, right? Like, right. So I think people need to realize that it's just mostly hard work. It's not about it is about who you know, but it's also about how long you're willing to just stay focused on what you want.
It's kind of how you know, or who you know, I'm sorry, but that only comes from how hard you work.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I was very lucky to run into the people I did. Tom.
Sure.
Clay Rogers, Matt McCall, you.
Sure.
I can think of.
This is just a little thing.
Right.
People don't understand. It's a little thing.
Right. But that all stems from the hard work.
100%.
So if you don't work hard, then those people aren't gonna say, "Hey, I know this kid.
Right.
He works really hard."
Here's a guy.
Right.
No, here's a guy.
That is how my career.
That's exactly right. Here's a guy.
I mean? Yeah. So
100%.
The hard work is the most important part in getting, I guess, anywhere in life, but especially racing.
Kind of humility too, I think, especially as the Cup deal has changed so much more than what it was when I think the humility deal is so much more important. Like, it was just a band of brothers when we did it, right? Like, we had a crew chief, but he wasn't a crew chief. Like, the only thing that made him a crew chief was he got his own car, right? Right. And most of the time he was bored, so he wanted us to ride in the car with him, right? So it was a band of guys, where now it seems like it's so much more big business and so much more. You guys have to eat more garbage than we even had to eat, right? Because nobody was watching us. We were kind of just off on our own, doing our own thing. As long as we got there in the morning,
absolutely, yeah.
It was a win.
Right, yeah.
And I think a lot of that has changed with how the garage is now, how the people in the garage, the data in the garage, the tokens or whatever they call them, the franchise essentially is. I think this sport is so much different, and I think it will continue to be different.
Absolutely, it will always evolve.
We just need people like you that still believe in the mentorship type thing, right? That I don't feel as much that we should take kids and you do what I say, but I think, like, people have questions.
Absolutely.
And with social media, if you don't reach out to anybody, it's your own fault, right?
No,
Like
absolutely.
you can. There's anybody you can talk to about anything. I get texts at 9:47 last night. A guy was like, "Hey, do you know where I can buy a car?" Sure. It takes me 2 seconds to respond.
Yeah.
Right. Like yeah. There's 3 cars out there. Blah 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 blah. Yeah. I mean, that's the way you win.
Yeah, and most people I think would be more than happy to. Anybody could ask me anything at any point,
Right.
On how to do something,
Good,
how to
bad,
get somewhere.
ugly.
Yeah. And also I love sharing my mistakes as well, because normally they're pretty funny or
Right.
you know what I mean. So,
we got to tell one mistake before we go here. So B only worked here just a short period of time. I had bought Performancenter from Tom Pistone. It was wintertime, I think, by then, right? Maybe July, August, September. I think it probably was. A couple months after I bought it. I think I bought it in July. It doesn't matter. So I was in this office right here, which could see out into the shop, and B was out here working on something grinding, and there was 4 or 5 guys. The standard group was here, and I look over, and I see this brand new powder-coated car, and
God.
B had spilled a bottle of lacquer thinner underneath
Under
the
the
car,
car.
and it had spilled all underneath the car, and then he sparked somebody. I don't know if it was you
no,
or
it was
somebody
me,
else.
because I was grinding seat rails
And
on another car.
And it caught fire, and we had a brand new chassis, completely powder coated, and it completely
like a whole gallon of lacquer
engulfed
thinner,
in flames. It was
under the car,
unbelievable.
charred the whole floorboard.
It was great.
Oh my
It was
God.
great. But that's the thing that I want people to understand, because my mindset has changed so much in the last 10 or 15 years that some people, the old me, would have just melted down about it. And the actuality of it is that all the stuff that I melt down or got mad about 10 years later, I laugh.
Right.
Like, I laugh. My wife and I are in Cabo San Lucas. She drops her phone over.
Yeah.
We get to the airport. I lose my wallet, right?
Yeah.
And my phone. I think we're dead.
Yeah.
Ended up locked up abroad, right? And now we laugh every week about that stupid it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think that's the win. The journey is the win. And I just
Absolutely.
missed it for so long. I'm proud to be able to see it now
Well,
at 40, right? But
even I, again, I talk about like your 20s, you dig, and
Right.
your 30s, you start to
figure it out.
a little bit.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of figuring
Right.
out to do, but I can tell. I look back at like my 20s, and I'm like, man, I was a weapon, you know. And there's a guy at Stewart Hass, car chief on the 4, and he's all about like trying to,
Yeah.
just
What's his name?
Robert Smith.
Yeah.
Cheddar. He
Cheddar Bob.
Yes,
That guy's
Cheddar Bob.
legendary.
Yeah, is he?
Wasion, Ohio. That's where he's from. The next little town over from me.
He
He was at Michael Waltrip's when he first came here. He was
Really?
the tire guy there.
Oh.
He was terrible.
I didn't know that.
Terrible.
Well, and that's what even he says. Like,
he was terrible.
I'll run around with my hair on fire, and he's like, settle down.
Yeah.
And I look over, and Rodney's laughing at one point, and he goes, hey, Cheddar, that was you about 10 years ago.
Right.
You
I know he
So-
does very
Yeah.
well. Like
Yep.
but I mean, at that young little
Right.
him, right?
Yeah.
He was our tire guy.
Yeah.
It was a mess. He never knew. Like, I think Chaos Brian Murphy tried to
Oh,
choke him
yeah.
more times than they were. And
Yeah.
now look at he's win 4 rings or something.
Yeah, so it's amazing how like now.
Good dude though.
Oh,
Good dude.
very,
right?
very
Like,
good.
Give
Yeah.
anything.
I would not be where I'm at without.
I wish I would have got him later in life. Earlier, when I thought I knew everything, like guys like that were superheroes, and you didn't even know it, right?
Yeah.
Like they loved it so much that it made you mad.
Right.
You too, even to a point, right? Like they loved it so much where you're like, man, they surely have not been kicked in the balls enough yet, right? They're still happy. They got puppy love.
Yes, yeah.
That's
So,
awesome. Well, I so much appreciate you coming
No,
in here.
thank you. This was awesome.
We'll whack this up in some little clips. It'll be a
Yeah.
good. I try to only do 30 minutes, but we went way far because
Yeah.
I appreciate you
No,
coming.
that's
and
awesome.
Maybe you'll climb Denali or Everest or something and come back in and tell us
Yeah.
about that.
Hopefully, I don't come back with like.
no nubs.
yeah. We'll see.
I hope not. That's true. Well, I appreciate you coming,
Yeah,
man.
thank you very much.
Thanks. I hope you reach out to him, Brian Murphy.
Yeah,
He's at
absolutely.
Stewart Haas. He's kind of gone a long way, right? He's built a nice career for himself, built a nice brand for himself, and gets interviewed on TV quite a bit. They had his.
Yeah.
I sent him a text the other day. Was watching the Cup race, and they had something about him on there. So just keep working at it.
Yeah.
That's. I think I'm proud to have him come on here and say that. It's just more about keep working.
Yeah.
So thanks for tuning in. Subscribe, check us out. Let us know what you want to see. I know everybody says that. It kind of drives me nuts. But there's got to be something you want to see. We got a lot of friends. We'll get some idiot in here to say something crazy, right? That'll give you value.
There is plenty of material out there.
For sure. Yeah. I agree. Well, thanks for checking us out. Thanks for spending 40 or 50 minutes with us. And enjoy your time. Stay grinding. Thanks, Brian.